Hello and welcome to the P3 podcast. I am super excited to have Lisa today, Lisa Upton from Euphrenity. Lisa's story is truly inspirational, but the good thing about it is that she doesn't like sharing it. She's been really shy and quiet. Are you quiet and shy? Yeah, no, good. Just for the guys with a bit of background, so Lisa and I have been collaborating on a few projects, and we're actually here in Snowdon right now.
We are.
Just been recceing some sites for one of our resilience workshops we'll be running later on in the summer. How's today been for you?
It's been amazing. It's been very, very cold, firstly.
Welcome to Wales.
But apart from that, it's been incredible. It's been great to see Wales again. I first did Snowdon last summer, and it was beautiful then. But I think seeing it in a different season is, it's beautiful as well. Yeah,
definitely. This time of year when you've got the rain clouds moving very, very quickly, there's almost the view changes by the second, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does.
And it adds a lot of self.
Yeah,
okay. So I've promised a lot of our listeners some inspirational stories, and you've definitely got one. I know you're fairly bored of telling people about it, but nevertheless, it is incredible, in terms of what you've gone through and where you are today. And I'm probably, from my perspective, what you're going to do in the future. How you're positively using your experience to positively influence people, and help them, especially in this day and age, and with the news covered in, mental health issues and challenges people have today. It seems to be increasingly on the rise, and it's good to know that there's some positive, proactive steps people can do, and I know that's part of your journey. But rather than me talking, can you just give guys a little bit of background to your story? And I know you don't want to go into too much detail about it, but what happened, Lisa?
When I was 14, I was diagnosed with a benign brain tumour, and the neurologist and all of the people that I saw at the time just kind of said, you're going to have to live with that ticking time bomb, essentially, that's in your head. I had epilepsy from the age of 14, so I'd have like daily seizures, not big ones. They used to call them petit mouse, so I just momentarily lose the ability to speak for a split few seconds and start dribbling. Things like that. Not very nice, but I got used to it and lived with it. And then the day came in 2016 when they said, I think we might be able to get this benign brain tumour out, but if we do, you're going to have to be awake when we do it. I was like, whoa, awake? They were like, yeah, because it's so close to the area of your speech and language that we need to make sure that we're not going to permanently damage that. So yeah, that was the moment I thought, oh my goodness, wow. This is a big decision.
And how did you come to take the decision to undergo the operation?
So the decision, I think this is an important part of my teachings in Euphrenity now. So it was like, can't explain it, but have you ever had that when you've been faced with a decision or something like that, when you feel like it's the right thing to do, but it just defies logic and it defies reason. And in this case, I'd got like world-leading neurologists saying to me, if I were you, I wouldn't do it because you've got more to lose than you've got to gain. You potentially could lose your life. You're almost certainly going to have to learn to read and write again. And if you balance up your life as it is, we think it's pretty good. And why would you take that chance? But deep down, I felt like it was the right thing to do. And I can't explain that any more than it was like a constant hum, constantly there, guiding me almost.
So almost like a gut feeling,
gut feeling, absolutely.
Bit of intuition saying, well, actually, something's telling me here.
Yeah.
Go against all the logic and all the evidence, but something's telling me I have to do it. And when we talk about motivation, we talk about motivation towards or away from something. Was it a case of, well, I need to do something here for my future to be better?
Yeah, I mean, for me, I've only had a couple of big seizures in my life, but the times I've had those were in my sleep. So I had this massive fear of sleep, to the point where I would just be terrified to go to sleep in case I didn't wake up. And living with that, it's not a great way to. I had two kids that were twins, so they were 4 at the time. And if I just saw it as an opportunity to get rid of that fear of potentially, thinking I was never going to wake up again, and that was the motivation for me.
That's incredible. Yeah, so I can't even imagine what that would be like. Concerned, going to sleep, not sure you'd wake up. So how did that manifest itself? So were you sort of really struggling to get a decent amount of sleep? Was it every night? Did you have a set amount of hours that you classed as a good night's sleep?
Oh, Phil, I created all sorts of crazy things in my mind. So this is how powerful our brains are, right? So people laugh at me when I tell this story, but a journalist actually wrote about it. So I used to think that I had certain windows of opportunity to get to sleep. So that would be 10, 12 and 2. And if I wasn't in bed for any of those times, then I would completely miss that slot, the sleep train, and not be able to get to sleep. And it happened. Like, if I didn't get in bed by 2, that was it, no sleep all night. And I'd like to think I've completely got rid of slots now, the enigma that are slots, but yeah, I think I have. But that was the sort that it was sending me crazy. It was sending me crazy. But that was my body's way, I guess, of protecting me and making me feel safe and making me think I had some control in this pretty uncontrollable situation.
Yeah, even the fact that it's every 2 hours. It's even numbers.
And then at Christmas, I used to give myself another slot. I had a 4 one, so I could stay up a bit later. On birthday.
And it's funny, and the people are probably, how's Phil laughing? It's because you always got a smile on your face. That's why I'm laughing. I'm not being some sort of.
Yeah, it's crazy.
It's funny. It's funny. It is funny what our brain does, especially when we're under certain amounts of stress and challenge. And yours was obviously for a long duration of time. And we will find these coping strategies, and they make sense at the time, don't they?
Make sense to us.
They make sense to us at the time, and maybe not after. But it's great to see that you can look back at it now and go, well, actually, that wasn't normal, but it was normal at the time, and it helped you get through it. No doubt.
Yeah,
you got me through it.
So
what on average? How many hours of sleep are you getting?
I mean, when I wasn't thinking about the epilepsy and the ticking time bomb, I'd get a good, 7 hours. But I always woke up with like that, almost like a breath to say, wow, I'm still here, which was, again, I look back now and that's crazy because I sleep well now, which is amazing. Yeah.
Oh, fantastic. So you've been to see specialists, consultants, and they've said, we think we can remove it now. What was that journey like? Because if I remember rightly, you saw quite a few consultants.
I did, yeah. I saw 7 different ones before I finally found the guy that was willing to perform the surgery. And he said, I'd Googled him, I'd done my research on the guy, best brain surgeon in the world. And when I saw him, I said, listen, I've Googled you. You can get anything out of my brain. I've read about you. You're amazing. He said, I can get anything out, Lisa, but what is, at what cost? That's the question. And, I looked him in the eyes and I said, if you were me, would you have it done? And he said, if I were you, I'd think very carefully. He said, you're going to have a challenge when you come out of this, and it's whether you're prepared to take on that challenge. So.
Wow. Did he sort of elaborate on what that challenge might be? So, what?
Speech and language. So learning to talk again, to read and write. Massively high chance of stroke. Luckily, that didn't happen. So, yeah, I had to learn to read and write again, which took about 9 months.
Okay, so was it like back to being a toddler, day 1, week 1, or was there a way of, I don't know, firing off those memory synapses in terms of to accelerate it, or was it literally it was as difficult as that?
No, it wasn't like completely having. So all the words were in my head, but it was like they'd shaken my head and all the words were jumbled up. And every time I was trying to speak, I knew what I wanted to say, but they were just coming out in a really random order. So it's more like a speech therapy thing that I had to have to learn about the physicality of speaking again and word construction.
So how did you find that period there, where obviously all of a sudden you could communicate effectively, and now that must have been frustrating.
Yeah, it was. I think it was hard to articulate though how frustrating it was. Yeah, it was massively frustrating, but I think it gave me a newly founded amount of patience for my kids, who were 4 at the time.
I'm sure loads of parents listening to that.
Yeah. And they were at the age where they too were learning to construct words and sentences, so we did it together, which was an amazing experience as well.
That must have been special. Okay, what sort of coping strategies did you find? What did you find sort of helped and worked?
What with the actual reading and writing things? So I had specialists, so reading and writing specialists that I saw once a week at least. They got me to do like quite a few tongue twisters. They're really good for like building the synapses back. So I used to do those. I still actually on an evening when I do a lot of reading, more reading than I've ever done before in my life. But I read out loud rather than reading in my head. because sometimes I still struggle with like articulation of certain words and things. So.
That's amazing. Did technology play a part? In terms of those? Could you write? Could you? No, it's
No.
completely back to.
I couldn't even get into my phone. Like I lost the memory of coding, so the code for my phone I couldn't even put that in initially. It was in the very early days. So through thumb recognition, I was able to get into my phone, which opened up the world of emojis. So I communicated using emojis for about 4 months. And anyone that knows me now know that I love an emoji.
Yeah, I gotta love an emoji, especially
yeah,
high 10.
Exactly. Yeah. Exactly. Thumbs up.
All right. So you obviously you've had the operation then. So you've had this battle. You know, did you say it was 9 months before? Yeah. And how's things now? How's things been since then?
Yeah, things have been amazing. Things have been really good. Even though I couldn't read and write, I still was able to sort of, I guess, manage day to day. And about 6 months after the operation, that was when they asked me to take part in the emotion code at the National Hospital.
Which national hospital was that?
So it's a National Hospital of Neurology and Neurosurgery, Queen's Square in London, which is where I had my surgery.
Oh, so some pretty senior people then.
Yeah.
Okay. So how did that discussion come about?
So I was just extremely grateful after my surgery, and met with the neuro team that performed the surgery, and I was a bit like, listen, if you need me to do anything, you know, I'll take part in any experiments you've got, and I'll essentially gift my brain to science if you need me to. And after a few little discussions, they said, actually, Lisa, we might take you up on that. There's something that we're working on at the moment called the emotion code, which is where we like to study the emotions in people's brain, how people can attain them, how they can maintain them, and how they can understand them more. So that was when they asked me to take part in the emotion code.
Wow. My talk about brain then, as you were talking, my brain went straight to how they can maintain them. That could be positive or negative.
Yeah.
So, you know, when you get that habitual, when things are going well, do you know when you're at that state of flow, when things, you're just knocking things down, it's great.
It is.
But when, you know, you get up in the morning, I say this quite frequently in some of the sessions I run, where you stub your toe on the edge of the bed and you think, right, I'm going to have a bad day, and then finally I feel a bad day. It's because you're perpetually replaying, aren't you? And then you're almost looking for things subconsciously to prove yourself to be right. But I just realised straight away that is that fair? Is it could it be positive or negative?
Yeah,
emotions?
Yeah, absolutely. I think the interesting thing, one of the most interesting things I learned whilst working with this incredible team, is that we got 33,000 emotions, but we use about 14, 15 of those. Top 3: fear, hate, anger.
Which are all negative, right?
Yeah. And we internalise those, perpetuate those. It's crazy, isn't it?
But yeah, it is crazy. But I think in the field I work in, I jump straight to the fact of, well, that's part of our survival instinct, isn't it? It's that,
absolutely.
You know, I don't think anybody's been too happy before. Well, I suppose there's limits to that, but but the things that really hurt us are the things we're fearful of.
Yeah.
You know, so let's tune our brain over hundreds of thousands of years to be in tune to be attracted to and focus on the negative things.
Yeah.
And that's very much part of the area we work in, when we're trying to release those negative elements for people to go and fulfill their potential.
Absolutely.
So, okay, so what happened after that then? How does that feed into today?
So obviously that was quite a long learning journey of understanding emotions, and what I had to do as part of the process was to take part in various activities and experiments to elevate and activate certain emotions, which was some crazy stuff like snorting 100% cacao to elevate levels.
Cacao as in chocolate?
Yeah, as in chocolate.
Right,
yeah,
let's get that right.
Yeah. The legal chocolate. But that sort of was shown to have an effect on the levels of dopamine in a person's brain. So if you did that, as well as listening to something called binaural beats, then that could really elevate you and get you nearer to the emotion of euphoria. So through the process, I gradually learned and realised that there is a formula and there is an equation to attain euphoria and serenity. And they were the two emotions that were really heightened in my brain through fMRI scans and through microdialysis. And the guys at the hospital said, my goodness, like, we've seen levels of euphoria and serenity in you that we haven't really, we've only ever seen in people that have taken illegal substances like MDMA and ecstasy. So I think I had that light bulb moment of realising, you know what, we are in charge of our emotions. We completely have the ability to activate them, and to maintain them, to your point, if we choose to. But it's about knowing and understanding how we do that.
Right. Yeah, that makes complete sense. And what are your plans to do with this knowledge?
Share it, obviously, with as many people as I can. And I'm not by any means sitting here and telling the listeners that I have all the answers, because I absolutely don't. I have the foundations and I have the formula and I have the equation, but this is a collaborative thing with people that I'm working with on how to deliver that. And the formula and the equation are very, very simple, but it's at the back of that, there's a whole load of work that people need to do. So there is no quick fix to this. It does take work, but it's absolutely achievable, and it's not unique to me who has had brain surgery, because that's a question I get a lot. Do you think it's because you've had brain surgery that you're able to access Euphoria and Serenity? No, I don't, because I've taught it to people who haven't had brain surgery.
There's a couple of points in there, going back to that experiment you were talking about, where you had to snort 100% cacao and then listen to, basically it's a type of music, isn't it, binaural beats. There's two things going on there for me. One is there's an internal stimulation from the cacao, and there's external auditory from the music. Yeah. So there's doing something internally and then doing something externally to get a response. And I think that's a key learning from everything. It seems to be a theme I'm talking to a lot of people at the moment, that the internal bit is the knowledge, the knowing, the external access is the doing. Yeah. And there's a breakdown between knowing something and doing something. Absolutely. And when you get those two aligned, that's when you get a different outcome. Yeah. Which is potentially more positive. It may be more negative, but at least you know it's not right. Yeah. It's that ability of creating options, isn't it? Which is a great passion of ours within coaching. Is my sort of explanation of what a coach is to co-creating solutions. If you've got a problem, let's co-create them. But you've got to take ownership. You've got to do the work. I can't do it for you. Yeah. Otherwise, that's not. This is about your progress, not mine. Yeah. And I know that's almost an underlying message behind what you're going to do with this knowledge and how you came about your business. So can you share with the listeners what you've decided to do with this newfound knowledge?
Yes, so I created Euphrenity, which is obviously a blend word of euphoria and serenity. This is soon to be a word, actually. It's on standby in the Oxford and College Dictionary.
So Euphrenity is going to be in the dictionary of the word,
it is.
And you created it?
Yeah, I'm the founder of Euphrenity.
You don't get credits for that in the dictionary, do you?
No, you don't.
Euphrenity, founded by Lisa.
No,
unfortunately. But at least you know, and our listeners will know. Yeah,
that's it.
Claim that.
And it's soon to be an emotion as well, obviously, when it gets validated. So there'll be 33,001 emotions that we have.
Amazing.
So what I'm going to do is I've developed Euphrenity, the business, which is essentially a training consultancy, coaching consultancy, and within Euphrenity there's various different trainings that I run. So at the moment there's the 90-minute high level view, which I've been delivering up and down the country, which as I've just said, delivers a high level view of what you. So
it's like an introduction. It's a really shallow introduction. This is what it's all about. Yeah. If you want to learn more, then you can come and do it. So if I've done the 90 minutes then, and I've come and done that, then what's next after that?
So after that is the full one-day workshop, the full emotion code workshop, where we delve a little bit deeper into what people have learned on the high level view. So the three elements of Euphrenity are conscious living, elevation of the right hemisphere, the right side of the brain, and then extrapolation and personal element. So high level view in the 90 minutes of those three things, a little bit more detail in the one-day session, and then obviously we've got the resilience code, which is this 2-day fully immersive workshop retreat where we delve deeper into the theories and the neuroscience behind conscious living, elevation of right hemisphere, and personal element intuition, coupled with human performance training and physical training as well.
So you talked about the three elements. Can you just give us a whistle-stop tour of them? And I know obviously there's a course to be had here, but if you were to break it down into layman's terms for me, what are those three things? What do they mean?
Yeah. So conscious living is about, it's essentially about growth. It's about learning. The primary need of our neocortex, the newest part of our brain, the most evolved part of our brain, it has one purpose, and that's to learn and to grow. So this is about understanding why we are not learning as much as we should, why we aren't growing as much as we should. So it's about understanding what emotions are holding us back, what conditioned thoughts are holding us back, what learned behaviour is holding us back. Because when we understand that, and when we can overcome that, we start to learn more, we start to feed that neocortex with what it wants most. And when it's learning and when it's growing, that's when it's happy.
Great stuff.
And then there's obviously the second one, the elevation of the right hemisphere. So for me, I had my surgery in the left part of my brain. So that was temporary. All of the cognitive functions of my left brain were momentarily dampened down, and the right ones were heightened. So what I've learned is, as a human species now, we are a little bit more left brain than we are right brained. So for me, when I had that surgery, it was like being propelled back to the days when we were running around on the African savannas. I was totally present. I was very creative, and all of those things in the right part of my brain were heightened. And I've had to work really hard since then to keep them heightened, because I realised that the right side of your brain is a really incredible place to be. And the left brain is absolutely needed and required, but the right side is magical.
And you consciously work on that to keep it, yeah. So what type of things do you do?
Meditation.
Okay.
Mindfulness.
Yeah.
But not necessarily in the conventional form that people think of meditation. So for me, meditation is about putting myself in situations where I have to be completely focused. Not necessarily situations where my life depends on it if I'm not focusing, but public speaking, for example. Used to hate it, but now I'm always doing it because I know that I have to be in that moment. I can't be thinking about anything else. Working to deadlines, putting myself forward for things like that. That for me is a lot of the meditation I do, as well as the conventional sort.
Yeah, so the word that comes out for that one is you're really being proactive, aren't you? Mm. And I think that when people are struggling a little bit and they can't see a way out of their troubles, they naturally withdraw.
Yeah.
So they can naturally become reactive or inactive.
Mm.
You know, almost it's the freeze, flight or flight, isn't it? Yeah. You know, freeze, flight or flight. So, but that proactive, going and doing something is so important, isn't it? And I was chatting to people last week actually about this ability as humans to be connected. Mm. That, you know, we need the support of other people. You know, you look at all the mental health things now, it's all about speak up, you know, talk up. But you need to have those people around you.
You do.
That you trust, that you can communicate with, that are not going to judge you.
Yeah.
They're not going to tell you what to do, because it's not about that. That's where people shut down.
It is.
It's more about being proactive in yourself, to have that conversation with somebody who understands.
Yeah.
Might be able to support you, maybe point you in the right direction, or create those new thought patterns to create options for you to do something else. And I was talking around somebody I know was withdrawing a little bit, and I was thinking, but what's your passion about? What's those values? You know, what do you really like? You know, we thought about maybe doing an online course, and all of a sudden they're gone. You know, they focused on it, gone, that's a great idea, or they've thought, well, I was already thinking that, but someone's just given me a little nudge, and I've gone and done that. But that's again getting that part of that brain, that part of the brain, but getting the creative side, and being present then, aren't you, in there when you're learning a new skill. Yeah, and I know personal development's a big part of yours as well. I know you read a lot, don't you?
I do, yeah. I read all the time now, because that's the growth part of it. That's why I have to actively make the decisions to read. And you know, sometimes I get quarter of the way through a book and I'm like, no, that's not for me, so I'll start another one. But yeah, reading is massively important.
But even that's control, isn't it?
It is, yeah.
Just because I've started a book doesn't mean I've got to finish it.
No, it doesn't, no.
Or this is not what I thought it was going to be.
Exactly.
This is not interesting me. I do the same actually. I use the word yet. I'm not ready to finish this yet, and I'll put it away and pick up another one. Wife goes mad because when you're reading 3 or 4 books at the same time, I'm not. I've just finished with that book for now. I've got what I wanted from it.
Yeah.
And that's enough to stimulate my brain.
Of course.
Yeah. Has it always been that way? Because it wasn't for me. I was never a reader.
No, I was never a reader.
Sounds like a new skill.
Never ever a reader. This is definitely a new skill for me, and I can't get enough of it. I've got like 3 books on the go at the minute, so you just can never get it for me anyway.
That's part of that stimulation again, isn't it? Getting those neural fibers.
Yeah.
Okay. And what else was the other elements?
So the final element, I call it extrapolation of a personal element. But essentially what it is, it's about intuition. It's about retuning with ourselves and I guess trusting ourselves and believing that we have this incredible superpower, which is our intuition, the ability to know the way, I guess. And I think through time we've lost the ability to trust ourselves and our intuition, and it's become calcified, I guess is a fair word to use, through society and culture and the noise we're surrounded by telling us how to live and act in a certain way, which could be completely out of line with actually who we really are.
It's funny again, I do say this a lot, as someone's chatting, especially someone like yourself, Lisa, my brain just goes all over the place in terms of joining dots. And just to go back to your point there, I bought a car just before Christmas, so not so long ago, and my gut feeling was it's probably not the right car, but I know I needed a car, so it's through necessity, and I swapped it 3 months later. I knew it wasn't the right car for me, but the logical part of my brain, it ticked all the boxes.
Exactly.
But I knew it wasn't the right car for me.
And that's where the left brain comes in, the logic, the sequence, the order. It can kind of override our intuition.
Yeah, but that's okay, because I've made peace with that. I mean, it's just a car at the end of the day. And I've lost a bit of money on it, because you never make money on cars unless it's a vintage car. But part of me was like, nah, maybe I should have, listened to it a bit more, or even just been a bit more patient. But it's fine. But it's funny that as soon as you speak, it just joins dots. You're going, yeah, of course, that's what happened to me recently. Yeah. Because we're all humans, aren't we?
Yeah, and everyone's got that, examples that it can use when they should have trusted it, but they didn't, and didn't quite work out the way they thought it would have. Yeah,
fascinating. So these 3 pillars of yours then, of Euphrenity, you've talked around the 3 programs. So you've got your 90-minute one, your 1-dayer, and your 2-dayer. And the 2 days brings us together of us collaborating, really, isn't it? So do you want to give the guy who's listening just a brief overview of what those 2 days is?
So the resilience code is effectively what the name is in the title, really. So the resilience code is all about it's a practical application of the 3 elements of Euphrenity: conscious living, right hemisphere, and alignment of intuition and personal element. So there's a day of theory-based learning, with lots of integrative behavioural psychology, mindset training, things like that. We're throwing in there a few different therapies, because we know that they work for some people. So things like cold water, immersion therapy, kundalini yoga, hypnotherapy, various things like that. And then we've obviously got, I think what makes the resilience code really exciting is the fact that we provide these training, these tools, these techniques to people in day 1, and then day 2 is all about applying them and seeing how they work by taking people on this amazing climb to the summit of Snowdon, so people can actually see and feel that they work. It's not just theoretical, it works.
Because it's all about the practical application, isn't it? Because it's just a theory, it's a concept that works, and the science shows that, doesn't it? And you've got a very hefty, weighty stamp of approval there from the Hospital of Neurology and Neuroscience. But theory is not enough, is it? We need to have this practical application. We need to have this experience. We need to live it to truly believe it.
Absolutely.
And so somebody's listening to this, then they're thinking about coming on the Resilience Code, the 2-day workshop. There may be some barriers there. I'm never going to walk a mountain. I hate cold water. Yeah. Or I'm not going to a room of strangers and chatting. And yoga, what the hell is that? What would you say to those people that are thinking, well, maybe it does interest me, but I've got some concerns?
Yeah, I'd say to people, speak to me, reach out to me, and hopefully I'll be able to iron out any concerns that they have. There's a lot of info I've got in terms of providing people with literature, but I prefer to speak to people. So like I said, reach out, email me, DM me on social media, and I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Great stuff. And somebody comes along on the Resilience Code, has an amazing time, climbs the mountain, has all the positive outcomes that they desire and you desire. Is there anywhere else they can go after that?
Yeah, there is, absolutely. So we're currently working on the Reset Code, which will be a 5-day, fully immersive, my goodness, transformational, most definitely transformational journey, which I'm set to run out in Daya in Mallorca, late September. So I'm working on that, and that will be more neuroscience, more kind of delving into the neuroscience behind emotions and practical application. Lots and lots of different things on there. But that's another podcast.
Yeah, absolutely. We can go down. And Mallorca in September. Just that's got me straight away. Never mind the fact of going on a journey.
It's got all the things of the Resilience Code, but much more.
Much more depth. That's amazing. And you were telling me before we started this is that the beauty of it is that they haven't got to do them all. People can enter at any point, can't they?
Yeah,
so,
absolutely.
Yeah, there's not a sort of a progressive journey. If you want to do the 90 minutes, you can. If you want to go straight to Mallorca, you can, or anything in between.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's fantastic. So, guidance for people that want to learn more. Obviously, we'll put in the comments links to your website and all that. But if people want to reach out to you on a personal level, what's the best email
just
for you?
reach out to me at my website, Euphrenity. I'm going to spell it because people often get this wrong. Obviously, it's a blend word, euphoria, serenity. It's Euphrenity, EUPHRENTY. So www.euphrenity.com.
Brilliant. And again, if it's okay with your permission with GDPR these days,
Yeah.
it's on your website anyway. So if people click through your website, that's what they want, easy flow these days. Click through the website and then your email address is there and they can drop you a message and arrange a call and see where maybe their best entry point is or what opportunities are. And just as a last whistle stop tour, and the next date of your next event is?
The 21st to the 23rd of May.
Brilliant. And that's for the Resilience Code.
That's for the Resilience
up in
Code.
Snowdon.
Yeah.
Brilliant. Well, I'm sure there'll be many people contacting for you. It's going to be amazing. I know I'm personally coming to that one to help out and support. It's going to be amazing. So, Lisa, thanks for your time. I really appreciate it. A truly inspiring story and look forward to speaking to you again soon.
Thank you.